Let's now consider this secondary source, a map, and think about what new information it gives us. Take a moment now to write down what information it gives you that we don't know already. Hopefully, you've noted down now that we have battle fronts on this map. Hopefully you can see a line through here, a line through here, and a line through here. The front lines of battle between the Central Powers and their allies and the Triple Entente and their allies. You can see there were three main areas where fighting took place in Europe. But we can also see marked a number of battles and the times on which they took place. And we see for the first time now Gallipoli turning up on our list. Marked with the yellow arrow is the Western Front. And we need to be very aware of this Western Front. We can see that Belgium seems to have been invaded, even though we had said it was neutral at the start of the war. You can also see the Eastern Front marked with this blue arrowhead, running from the Baltic Sea and north all the way to the Black Sea. And you can see that large areas of Russian territory through the area of what is now Poland was invaded by the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the German Empire. You might also notice that the Germans would have to have split their army in two halves to fight against the French on one side with their British allies and Belgian allies, and with the Eastern Front where they're fighting the Russians. Let's now go to another flank. The southern flank is the Southern Front, the Alpine Front, the Italian Front, where Italy fights against Austria-Hungary in the mountain range called the Dolomites. So right up on the northeastern frontier of Italy, where it meets Austria-Hungary, we have another battlefront. And then, very importantly, we need to look at the areas which really impacted upon Australia's involvement in the First World War in 1915. We've got a location for the Gallipoli Peninsula, and it's marked here with a purple arrowhead. Near the Gallipoli Peninsula, we also have the Dardanelles marked with a red arrowhead. The Dardanelles is this strip of ocean connecting the Aegean Sea to the Black Sea. Notice that the Ottoman Empire is controlling both sides of that strip of water. So where the Anzacs fought, where the Australians and New Zealanders fought during the First World War at the very start of the war in 1915 through to January 1916, is a fair bit away from the main fighting on the Western and Eastern Front, and it is in an area controlled by Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, near a strip of water. Some very important notes that you could put down there. So take a moment to write down and think about what you know now about the Western Front, where it's located, where the Eastern Front is located, where the Southern Front, also known as the Italian Front or Alpine Front, is located. Let's now continue on and have a look at another source. Again, we've got a primary source here, a very famous Australian primary source. Look at the contextual information you're given here. This information is usually provided in schools and classes to help you get started. So if we're having a look at this, straight away, if you know nothing else, you'll be able to see that we as teachers have told you that it's an Australian poster. We've told you the year of publication, 1915, which now hopefully you will recognise is connected to our battle at Gallipoli near the Dardanelles. This is created in Sydney by our Department of Defence. And hopefully you're already thinking, I might be able to recognise some of the words, some of the ideas, and some of the purposes, the motive perhaps even, for why this poster was created. Let's see what you might have picked up on. Firstly, I'd expect you have picked up on the words and image. Dardanelles gets a mention. Dardanelles in the main heading at the top, and that strip of water through here is the Dardanelles. Let's take away the label for a minute. This strip of water through here is the Dardanelles. This means this bit of land and this bit of land here are Ottoman Turkish territory. Let's add to it. Hopefully you've recognised this gentleman standing across that area there is like a giant, and he's an Australian soldier. We might recognise that by the shape of the hat, that he's shouting out "Cooee," other elements of the uniform from our general knowledge you might see. An interesting part of this image is that most Australians would have seen this, would have gone to school where they would have had a classical education, where they would have studied ancient Greece and ancient Rome and the wonders of the ancient world. Well, not far away from the Dardanelles in Greece was a wonder of the ancient world called the Colossus of Rhodes. And you might see the Colossus of Rhodes standing here, legs astride a giant statue, one of these ancient wonders where the ships sailed safely between his legs in and out of harbour. Look at this Australian. Perhaps it's being suggested this Australian is a modern wonder of the world, and he too is a giant amongst normal humans, standing astride a waterway where ships could sail to safe harbour. Cooey, won't you come? Cooey is a bush call. Here we have the Australian going, Cooey, calling out to his mates, inviting them to join with him, because this is an enlistment poster, a recruiting poster, encouraging other young men to join up and go and fight for Australia, or Britain perhaps, in Europe against the Turks. Hopefully by now you've recognised that this poster relates to the Gallipoli campaign. We haven't gone into it very much yet, but we're already getting a picture of what Gallipoli is and where we fight. If you look closely at the poster, you may even pick up the word Gallipoli and a number of other little landmarks marked along the peninsula itself. Here's the peninsula. At the time, because of newspaper reports, people were probably even recognising the shape of the land. Let's have a look at this map source. Hopefully you can recognise some similarities between this shape on the map and this shape here. This is the Gallipoli Peninsula. This is mainland Asian side of Turkish territory. You might see it over here. And you can see now Australia is standing across the Dardanelles. Let's take a moment for you now to respond to this question. So hopefully I've given you a few clues as I've spoken about this poster with you. This poster is produced by the Australian Department of Defence to encourage more young men to join up and go and fight in the Australian Army in an overseas war. It's an enlistment poster, it's a recruiting poster. So the motives of those who create it should be fairly clear, and hopefully you've made a point to that effect.